Iran Black Ops, triggered as rumors swirl. The dictator is dead. Special forces are pouring into the streets tonight. No warning, no explanation. Just boots on the ground and silence from the top. Because the man who commands them all has not been seen, has not been heard for months. And tonight, that silence may finally have an answer. Stay with us. Because what happens in the next few hours could change everything. Welcome back, everyone, to the Siege War. Before we go any further, if you've been with this channel for a while, you already know how this works. But if this is your first time here and you're the kind of person who likes to actually understand what's happening in the world instead of just scrolling past it, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. It costs nothing. It takes 2 seconds, and it means the next time something like this breaks, you'll be the first to know, not the last. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from tonight? We've got viewers checking in from every corner of the globe, and we'd love to know where you're tuning in from as this story unfolds. Now, let's get into it. Something unusual is happening inside Iran tonight. Reports are emerging from multiple sources, all pointing to the same event. Iranian special forces are moving, not in small numbers, not in one city, but across the country. Multiple units have been placed on high alert. This includes elite forces tied directly to the regime's inner power structure. They are being positioned near government buildings, near public squares, near locations that matter. And no one outside the regime knows exactly why. That in itself is the story. Governments do not move their most trusted forces without a reason, and when that reason is hidden, it usually means something serious is happening behind closed doors. Analysts tracking the region have laid out a few possibilities. The first is a coup attempt. If true, this would mean a power struggle is happening right now, inside the regime at the very top. The second possibility is internal unrest. Iran has seen growing anger on the streets for months, assassinations, protests, a population running out of patience. If the regime believes an uprising is coming, flooding the streets with force would be their way of trying to stop it before it starts. The third possibility is more aggressive. Some believe this could be preparation for a special operation, a commando-style raid, something Iran has threatened before. They have talked about targeting American personnel in the region. They have talked about strikes beyond their own borders. So this mobilization could be defensive, or it could be offensive. Right now, the public does not know which. What makes this moment different is the timing. This surge in military activity is happening at the exact same time as a separate, much bigger rumor. A rumor that the supreme leader himself may already be dead. If that rumor is true, everything changes. A leadership vacuum at the top of an authoritarian regime is one of the most dangerous moments a country can face. Power does not stay empty for long. Someone always moves to fill it, and often that someone is whoever controls the guns. In this case, that would be the Revolutionary Guard. They already hold enormous influence over Iran's military and economy. If the supreme leader is gone, they may see this as their opportunity to seize full control. That is why this mobilization matters so much. It could simply be the regime trying to maintain order, or it could be the opening move of a much larger struggle for power. Either way, one thing is clear. Something inside Iran has changed. The streets are no longer calm. Special forces are visible in places they are not normally seen, and every hour that passes without an official explanation adds more weight to the rumors already spreading. The world is now watching closely. Because if a coup is underway inside Iran, if the supreme leader truly is dead, the consequences would not stay inside Iran's borders. They would ripple outward, into the region, into global oil markets, into the balance of power across the Middle East. For now, the situation remains uncertain. No government has confirmed the supreme leader's death. No official statement has explained the military buildup. But uncertainty, in a moment like this, is its own kind of warning. Because when a regime goes quiet, when its most powerful forces suddenly appear in the streets, history has shown again and again that silence rarely lasts. Something is coming, and the world may not have to wait much longer to find out what it is. Now the story turns to the man at the center of it all, the supreme leader. For months, he has not appeared in public. No live video, no live audio, nothing that can be independently confirmed. Only written statements, released through his office, claiming to speak in his name. That is all the outside world has been given, and that absence has now become impossible to ignore. People close to the government are starting to talk. Quietly, carefully, but they are talking. Some sources inside Iran's own political circles believe he may have already died. Others believe he suffered such severe injuries that he's no longer able to function as a leader. The injuries themselves are not new information. He was hurt badly earlier this year, during the opening days of conflict, and has never fully returned to public life since. Now, word is spreading among officials at the highest levels that his condition has grown worse, much worse. 2 separate sources have said the same thing, that he may have died, or is no longer conscious enough to lead. Another report says the situation became critical earlier this month, with his health declining rapidly behind closed doors. And then came something unusual, a public appeal asking ordinary Iranians to pray for him, to perform religious sacrifices on his behalf. That is not a normal request. That is the kind of message a government sends when it is worried, or when it is preparing the public for news it has not yet announced. But not everyone agrees he is gone. From the American side, a very different message has been delivered. Former President Trump addressed the rumors directly, saying he does not believe the Supreme Leader is dead. He described him as seriously wounded, injuries to his arm, his leg, his entire left side, but alive. Trump also pointed out something worth noting. He said that if the Supreme Leader really were dead, the regime is doing a convincing job hiding it, because officials continue speaking as if they are in contact with him, still seeking his approval, still referring to him as active in decision-making. So now the world is left with two competing narratives. One says he is likely dead, or as good as dead. The other says he is alive, but severely weakened. Both cannot be fully true. But both cannot be dismissed either. This is where the danger really begins, because in an authoritarian system like Iran's, uncertainty about leadership is not just a rumor. It becomes a trigger. If key figures inside the government believe he is gone, they may already be positioning themselves for what comes next. Alliances shift, loyalties get tested, and decisions get made in the dark, long before the public is told anything. This is likely why military forces have suddenly appeared in the streets, not because of one single event, but because something inside the top of the regime is shifting. Whether that shift is a death being hidden, or the early stages of a power struggle among those preparing for his death. The outcome could look the same from the outside. Confusion, movement, silence from the top, and a population left guessing. For ordinary Iranians, this uncertainty is dangerous in its own way. A country does not need a confirmed death to feel unstable. It only needs enough doubt, enough whispers, enough silence, to make people start asking who is really in control. Right now, no one can answer that question with confidence. Not analysts, not foreign governments, not even, it seems, many people inside Iran itself. And until an official, verifiable statement is made, one way or the other, the world will be forced to read between the lines, watching for clues, listening for slips, because in moments like this, what a government does not say often matters more than what it does. While the world focuses on rumors from inside Tehran, two other developments are unfolding at the same time, and both deserve just as much attention. The first is happening in the water. Another tanker has been struck in the Strait of Hormuz. This is not the first. It will likely not be the last. Maritime authorities confirmed the attack after receiving reports of a vessel hit by an unknown projectile, followed by a fire on board. The good news, if there is any, is that the crew survived. Everyone on board is reported safe. No major environmental damage has been recorded. But the pattern here is what matters most. This strike appears separate from another recent attack on a tanker linked to Kuwait, which means, in a short period of time, there have now been multiple distinct attacks on commercial shipping in one of the most important waterways on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz is not just another shipping lane. A massive percentage of the world's oil moves through that narrow stretch of water every single day. When ships start getting hit there again and again, it is not just a regional problem, it becomes a global one. Every attack raises the same question. How much longer can this continue before a larger military response becomes unavoidable? So far, restraint has been the strategy. But restraint has limits, and each new strike brings the region closer to testing where that limit actually is. Now to the second development. This one is happening underground, far from any cameras or witnesses. New satellite images appear to show a previously unknown facility, built near one of Iran's most important nuclear sites. The location is significant. That existing nuclear complex is already considered one of the most heavily guarded and strategically important facilities in the entire country. The presence of a new hidden structure nearby suggests one thing clearly. Construction has not stopped. Enrichment activity has not stopped. Despite ongoing pressure, despite sanctions, despite the threat of further military action. This tells analysts something important about the regime's intentions. Even while dealing with internal uncertainty at the highest levels of leadership, even while facing repeated strikes on its shipping, Iran is still investing time, money, and resources into expanding its nuclear program. That is not the behavior of a government preparing to negotiate. That is the behavior of a government preparing for confrontation. And it raises a difficult question for the rest of the world. If Iran continues building in secret, underground, away from inspection, at what point does the international community decide that talking is no longer enough? Put these two developments together, and a clearer picture starts to form. On the surface, in the water, Iran is engaged in near constant low-level conflict, striking ships, disrupting trade, testing how far it can push before facing real consequences. Underground, out of sight, it is racing forward with technology that could eventually give it far more leverage than a few damaged tankers ever could. Both point in the same direction. A government not retreating, but expanding pressure on multiple fronts at once. This is happening at the exact same time that questions swirl over who is even in charge back in Tehran, which raises an unsettling possibility. Is this aggression being directed by a stable, unified leadership, or is it happening because no one is fully in control, and different power centers inside the regime are acting on their own, each pushing forward with their own agenda? If it is the second scenario, that may be even more dangerous than a single hostile leader making clear decisions, because a divided regime acting without central coordination is far less predictable and far harder to negotiate with. For now, the ships keep getting hit, the underground construction continues, and the world is left watching two fronts open at once, while still waiting for a straight answer about what or who is actually driving these decisions from the top. Behind every headline about missiles and military movement, there is another story unfolding, one that rarely makes the front page, but may matter just as much: the story of daily survival inside Iran. Ordinary citizens describe a life that has been stripped down to the basics: no reliable fuel, no consistent electricity, limited work, limited money. In some areas, even water has become difficult to access. One resident summed it up simply: there's no hope. Gas stations sit closed for days at a time. When they do open, the lines stretch for kilometers. Security forces have become a constant presence in public spaces, not to help citizens, but to prevent them from gathering. The desire to protest has not disappeared. If anything, it is growing. But fear of the consequences is holding many people back. Still, one voice captured what many are feeling: a simple hope that the rest of the world does not look away. This economic collapse is not happening in isolation. It is the direct result of sustained international pressure, sanctions designed to limit the regime's resources, and by extension, its ability to fund military operations abroad. From the American side, officials have been direct about the strategy. Statements from the Secretary of War point to a clear goal: apply economic pressure, maintain control over key waterways like the Strait of Hormuz, and leave the regime with only one real option: come to the negotiating table. According to this view, Iran's economy is already in a downward spiral, and its ability to move oil, its most valuable resource, remains severely restricted. Some oil is beginning to move again through the strait. Small shipments, escorted carefully, but nowhere near the volume Iran needs to stabilize its economy. The message from Washington is that this pressure will continue until serious negotiations over the nuclear program begin. So far, Iran has shown little willingness to engage on those terms. Meanwhile, another loose thread remains unresolved. 3 Iranian fighter jet pilots remain missing. They are not believed to be dead. Instead, many analysts believe they are being held somewhere, possibly by a foreign power. Iran has publicly pressured intermediaries to find answers. So far, those efforts have produced nothing. No confirmation, no location, no explanation. If these pilots have, in fact, defected or been taken into foreign custody, they could be sitting on valuable information about Iran's military capabilities, information that would only add to the regime's current vulnerabilities. Now, step back and look at the full picture forming across these 4 parts. Special forces mobilizing without explanation. A supreme leader whose fate remains unconfirmed. Continued attacks on international shipping. A secret nuclear facility still under construction. An economy in freefall. And missing military personnel who may already be talking to Iran's adversaries. None of these events exist in isolation. Together, they paint the picture of a regime under pressure from every direction at once. Externally, through sanctions and military posture. Internally, through economic collapse and possible leadership uncertainty. History shows that regimes rarely fall from a single blow. They weaken gradually, under the combined weight of multiple pressures hitting at the same time. That may be exactly what is happening inside Iran right now. Whether this leads to a peaceful transition of power, a violent internal struggle, or a regime that manages to hold on despite everything stacked against it, remains impossible to predict with certainty. What is certain is this: the coming days and weeks will matter enormously. If the supreme leader's fate is confirmed, one way or the other, it could set off a chain of events far beyond Iran's borders. Global oil markets are watching. Regional governments are watching. And so is the rest of the world. For now, all anyone can do is watch closely and wait for the silence from Tehran to finally break.